This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A heat wave across the country continues with triple-digit temperatures in the west, triple-digit heat indices in the east. I'm Julie Walker.
Democrats have met privately to face an extraordinary question, whether to keep standing behind President Biden's reelection bid. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The meeting of NATO leaders begins in Washington, and President Biden's health is in the spotlight. Donna Warder has that.
Opening statements will begin for the involuntary manslaughter trial of actor Alec Baldwin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm Archie Zaraletta with the latest.
On Wall Street, markets were mixed yesterday, but yet again, the S&P and the NASDAQ open at record highs this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
DoorDash is stepping up efforts to ensure its drivers don't break traffic laws. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Triple-digit temperature records continue to be smashed from the west, from Arizona and California to Idaho and Washington State. And real field temperatures in the east are soaring above 100 degrees, including in New York City and the nation's capital, baking more than 150 million Americans coast to coast. Trying to beat the heat herself, correspondent Julie Walker.
It's like a wave that hits you when you get out of the car.
We were in the sun for about 2 minutes, and that was too much for the two of us. So then we've been shade dodging. And it's slowly disappearing, so we'll see. We might go on some more walks, find more of these misters.
Usually a breeze is cool. This is not a cool breeze whatsoever.
Definitely a difference between the shade and the sun. But when you're in the sun, it feels like you're cooking. Yeah, it feels like you're cooking a little bit.
The heat wave across the country continues with triple-digit temperatures in the west, triple-digit heat indices in the east, and roughly everything in between also baking, says National Weather Service meteorologist Brian Jackson.
The heat dome persists over the west. It has shifted a bit toward the Great Basin, which has seen heat, but yes, we're expecting that to continue through this week. Daily high temperature records, today we're expecting dozens of those to be set across the West Coast states and inland all the way to the Rockies.
Death Valley, known for its heat, was 129 Monday. That's not even the all-time record, and it's attracting tourists like Drew Belt.
You can feel it in your eyes.
In the Portland area, county officials investigating 4 deaths as heat-related.
With any tragic losses in our community, we turn our focus on preventing further deaths and by helping people beat this heat over the next few days of this excessive heat event.
Dr. Richard Bruno.
These are probably preventable deaths, based on the fact that we assume that they probably would not have expired if they had better cooling options. And so we're trying to ramp up and make sure people have those options right now.
He says in extreme heat, staying cool is key. I'm Julie Walker.
Congressional Democrats meet privately to face an extraordinary question whether to keep standing behind President Biden's reelection bid or push him aside over cognitive concerns and his ability to win in November. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
Congressional Democrats have met privately to face an extraordinary question, whether to keep standing behind President Biden's reelection bid or push him aside over concerns about his ability to win in November. In what was billed as a family discussion, one person in the room says the meeting of House Democrats was dour. Number 3 Democrat Pete Aguilar says the goal was to listen, not dictate.
Our caucus meeting today was about listening to members. There was no instruction to get on the same page. We were talking about the importance, the twin goals that we have, preventing Donald Trump from ever setting foot in the White House and getting 218 votes for Hakeem Jeffries on January 3rd.
Tennessee's Steve Cohen says, forget the same page. Democrats aren't even in the same book. Illinois' Mike Quigley is among 6 publicly urging the president to step down.
The fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago helped Joe Biden win. We'll bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win. And my colleagues need to recognize that.
but others like Benny Thompson
Riding with Biden.
and Kwesi Mfume
Joe Biden all the way. Joe Biden.
are backing the president. Jerry Nadler's privately said he should bow out, but
He's our nominee, and we've got to elect him.
on the Senate side, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer faced 3 questions about the president and gave the same answer 3 times.
Are you confident that President Biden has what it takes to win in November and serve the next 4 years?
As I've said before, I'm with Joe.
And White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre says the president's eager to move past this.
He's very much focused on what's ahead. Right, he's very much focused. He has a fulsome, robust schedule in the next 2 weeks that we laid out for all of you. He wants to focus on that, the messages that he wants to come out when he goes to Texas next week, when he goes to Vegas next week. He's going to be on the road on Friday as well. He's ready. He's on fire. He's ready to go.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Biden under the spotlight from world leaders gathered in Washington. That's when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The system known as Beryl is now barreling its way through the central part of America. With an update on that, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadveri.
Tropical rainstorm Beryl will continue its trek towards the eastern Great Lakes by this afternoon. Widespread rainfall amounts of 1 to 2 inches are expected from lower Michigan to Pennsylvania, all the way up through much of New England, with over 4 inches possible in the heaviest pockets. Localized flash flooding can occur across these areas, especially for streets and poor drainage locations. Locally severe thunderstorms will also be possible for most of the region, including an enhanced risk for tornadoes from northern and central Pennsylvania through upstate New York. Otherwise, any thunderstorm can be capable of producing damaging wind gusts, perhaps up to 60 miles per hour. Elsewhere, from Texas to the central U.S. and Midwest, a quieter and more seasonal weather pattern will usher in for the remainder of the week. Outside of a stray shower or thunderstorm, largely dry weather is expected for these areas looking to clean up after Beryl impacted these regions. However, many rivers and streams in the Midwest, such as the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, will remain at flood risk through the end of the week before water levels eventually decline back to normal. In the West, an extreme heat wave will continue to ramp up through the middle of this week. Excessive heat warnings are in place from southern Arizona all the way through Washington and northern Idaho. Most of these locations will have record-high temperatures challenged or even broken. Even normally cooler locations at the coast, such as San Francisco and Los Angeles, California, won't escape high temperatures getting into the 90s by this afternoon. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadveri.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. NATO leaders have gathered in Washington to discuss, among other things, the Russia-Ukraine war and the leadership ability of President Biden. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
This week, we're welcoming NATO to Washington, D.C. President Biden will be bringing together all of our allies to talk about the security challenges that we have to face today and heading into the future.
Biden is hosting the summit of heads of state from Europe and North America who are facing the prospect that NATO skeptic Donald Trump could return to the presidency.
And Putin wants nothing less than Ukraine's total subjugation, to end Ukraine's democracy, and to wipe Ukraine off the map. And we know Putin won't stop at Ukraine. But make no mistake, Ukraine can and will stop Putin.
American University International Relations professor James Goldgeier says Biden has something to prove at the gathering.
He's trying to use the summit to demonstrate the tremendous leadership that he's shown since he came into office in 2021. But he's definitely weakened by the performance in the debate.
Biden points to his work rallying NATO members in its stiff response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a prime example of his steady leadership. Donna Warder, Washington.
It wasn't easy, but a jury has been seated for the trial of actor Alec Baldwin. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
12 jurors and 4 alternates have been chosen to decide whether Alec Baldwin committed a felony in the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in 2021. Questioning for a pool of 70 prospective jurors started 2 hours late because of technical problems. Judge Mary Marlowe Summer asked who was familiar with the case, and all but 2 raised their hands to show they were. By lunch, no jurors had been selected. 11 women and 5 men make up the panel. Baldwin is charged in the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in 2021. Baldwin had arrived with his wife and youngest child. Baldwin's brother, actor Stephen Baldwin, sat in the back of the courtroom. Baldwin faces up to 18 months in prison if convicted. His defense team has not said whether Baldwin will testify. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
When we return on America in the Morning, decelerating home prices. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after another record-setting day. Markets were mixed, but the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ each at new record highs this morning. Some investors say a pullback would be very normal at any time.
We've got a 40-year high in these top 10 mega cap stocks in terms of their concentration in the S&P 500. And for sure, they are ripe for correction. That would be a buyable dip. 2/13th's
Greg Sarian on CNBC. Fed Chair Jay Powell told the Senate Banking Committee yesterday that recent monthly readings have shown modest progress on lowering inflation, and the job market is cooling but still strong.
The latest data do show that we've had considerable cooling in the labor market. And we're very much aware that we have two-sided risks now. And we're determined to balance those as best we can. We want to see more good inflation data. And we also want to continue to see a strong labor market.
Powell speaks to a House committee this morning, part of his regular Capitol Hill 2-day, twice-a-year testimony. E-commerce site Etsy has lost 80% of its value over the past 3 years. It's now working on a turnaround. The platform tried to offer original crafts and goods made by real people, but was soon flooded with mass-produced merchandise, often made in China, as resellers across the U.S. gamed the website to crowd out the handcrafted items. Dolly at Dollar General. The discount chain will sell a new housewares collection from Dolly Parton in stores later this month. Everything's priced from $1 to $10.
Signs the housing market is picking up steam. Are more people starting to put the for sale sign out in the front yard?
Yes, they are. More Americans are starting to list their homes for sale, so that means more out there to buy. Doesn't mean they're affordable, but a lot of homeowners are finally ready to give up their 3% and 4% once-in-a-lifetime mortgages.
We are seeing more inventory of existing home beginning to rise. And as we get more inventory, I believe home prices will stop accelerating. I think there will be slight growth, but not the strong growth. And we certainly need more stabilizing home prices.
National Association of Realtors Chief Economist Lawrence Yoon on CNBC. The average mortgage rate in the U.S. since Freddie Mac began keeping track in 1971, well, it's about 7.5%. Today's average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage is lower than that at 7%, according to Mortgage News Daily. On today's watch list, day 2 of Fed Chair Jay Powell's testimony on Capitol Hill. We find out how many people applied for mortgages last week. We get the latest on oil inventories. That's an indicator on where oil prices might go and where gas prices might go. Samsung holds an unpacked event today to introduce new devices.
Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Who and why? The unauthorized access of President Biden's medical records. After these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The government is reporting that a U.S. Navy sailor tried to access President Joe Biden's medical records earlier this year. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has details.
A sailor assigned to the Navy Medicine, Readiness, and Training Command searched for the name Joseph Biden in the military's healthcare system called Genesis. The Navy says the sailor searched out of curiosity. A co-worker reported the breach. The Naval Criminal Investigative Service investigated and concluded that the record the sailor accessed was not the electronic record of the President of the United States. The White House was notified. The sailor, who has not been identified, received administrative discipline and remains in the Navy. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Some states are cracking down on DoorDash drivers, and it's got nothing to do with dinners being cold. Correspondent Ed Donahue explains.
DoorDash has received complaints about drivers. Officials in Boston are reporting an increase in motorcycle, moped, and motorized scooter drivers running red lights, traveling the wrong way down a one-way street, speeding, and driving on sidewalks. DoorDash is partnering with the city of Boston to make it faster and easier to process requests for drivers' records. Drivers could be removed if police report they have broken the law. DoorDash is considering expanding the program to other cities. The company wouldn't say how many drivers it typically removes from its platform each year for breaking traffic laws. I'm Ed Donahue.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Hurricane Beryl has left a path of devastation that residents and all involved are saying
it's overwhelming.
I'm Jim Roop.
Donald Trump is reveling in the turmoil around President Biden's campaign. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Nikki Haley is releasing the delegate she won during the Republican presidential primary. I'm Ed Donahue.
An Alaska judge steps down from the bench after being accused of having a sexual relationship with a former law clerk. I'm Bob Brown. I'll have that story.
Russian AI social media plot disrupted in the Netherlands. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Axel Foley returns to the top of the charts with the sequel on Netflix. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Yes, it is summer, but extreme heat grips part of the nation. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadberry with the forecast.
An extreme heat wave will ramp up through the middle of this week across the western United States. Dangerous heat can be expected from southern Arizona all the way through Washington and northern Idaho, with record high temperatures likely to be challenged or broken for most. Death Valley, California, will also come close to reaching the 130-degree mark today and tomorrow, which is among the hottest temperatures ever reliably recorded on the planet. Elsewhere, tropical rainstorm Beryl will continue tracking through the U.S. today, reaching the eastern Great Lakes by this afternoon. Widespread heavy rain can be expected from Pennsylvania through southern Michigan and New England, with over 4 inches of rain possible in some of the heaviest pockets. Rainfall of this magnitude can lead to localized flash flooding. Locally severe thunderstorms will also be possible for most of the region, including an enhanced risk for tornadoes from northern and central Pennsylvania through upstate New York. Any thunderstorm that passes through can also be capable of producing damaging wind gusts, potentially up to 60 miles per hour. Fortunately, from Texas to the central U.S., a more seasonal weather pattern will usher in for the remainder of the week. This will be welcoming weather for those areas looking to clean up after Beryl plowed through these regions. However, rivers and streams across much of the Midwest will remain at a flood risk for the rest of the week. In Nashville, Tennessee, it will be breezy and less humid with a partly sunny sky, the high 88. However, in Salt Lake City, Utah, it will be dangerously hot under blazing sunshine, the high 104. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadberry.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A federal disaster declaration has been approved for the Lone Star State following Hurricane Beryl's landfall. Jim Roop reports that the storm cut a destructive and deadly path through East Texas, and millions remain in sweltering heat without power.
8 people are confirmed dead at the filing of this report. 3 people died from falling trees. 2 people perished in their cars in floodwaters, including a 54-year-old Houston Police Department employee and a 77-year-old man found in White Oak Bayou near downtown Houston. 2 people were found dead in a tent in a wooded area in Magnolia in Montgomery County. Their exact cause of death has not been disclosed. And a man died during a house fire in South Houston Monday, although fire department officials are still investigating the cause of that fire. And along with that, Thomas Gleason with the Public Utilities Commission of Texas says some 2 million customers are without power in the state.
This will be a multi-day restoration effort. So I'd ask Texans for their patience as the crews are out there doing their best to try to restore energy across the state.
Acting Governor Dan Patrick says President Biden has approved a federal disaster declaration for the state, freeing up FEMA funds to cover the cost of debris removal and emergency protective measures. Cleanup and power restoration work continues in and around the Houston area and up into East Texas. No definitive timeline, though, being offered on those efforts. Brad Mahar with the Salvation Army says his organization is out in force.
Some of these people may be without the ability to cook, let alone if they have the time and the other resources. So just having someone there to provide that to them, it means a lot.
And this appears to be just the beginning of what looks to be a busy hurricane season. The highly respected Colorado State University Tropical Weather and Climate Research Department has modified its 2024 hurricane prediction forecast. They are adding 2 more named storms, up to 25 from 23, with 12 of those becoming hurricanes. That's 1 up from the original number of 11. 6 of those 12 hurricanes are predicted to be a Category 3 or higher. Meteorologists are saying warmer than normal sea surface temperatures are helping with the rapid intensification of these storms. I'm Jim Roop.
Donald Trump's reveling in Democrat dysfunction as he returns to the campaign trail, hosting a rally at one of his golf courses in Florida. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, the former president did not hold back on attacks against his current rival, President Biden, and also Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot.
After days of lying low, the ex-president appeared on the 10th hole of one of his Miami area golf courses, saying it's a shame how the Democrats are treating his successor.
But don't feel sorry for him. He's a very bad guy.
Trump ramped up his attacks on both the president and vice president.
Laughing Kamala, Laffin apostrophe.
Amid speculation, Kamala Harris might replace him as the Democratic nominee.
But whatever else can be said about Crooked Joe Biden, you have to give him credit for one brilliant decision, probably the smartest decision he's ever made. He picked Kamala Harris as his vice president. No, it was brilliant because it was an insurance policy, maybe the best insurance policy I've ever seen, Marco. If Joe had picked someone even halfway competent, they would have bounced him from office years ago, but they can't because she's got to be their second choice. She has no choice and no chance.
Lacing into her with more specifics than usual, despite what he calls a Democratic panic.
The truth is, it doesn't matter who they nominate because we are going to beat any one of them in thundering landslides.
With the Republican convention next week, Trump is facing a deadline to name a running mate. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a top contender, joined him at the rally, and Trump played it up, noting the number of reporters at the golf course.
I think they probably think I'm going to be announcing that Marco is going to be vice president. I don't know.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Even more delegates may be backing Donald Trump at next week's Republican convention in Wisconsin, thanks to a one-time rival on the primary campaign trail. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
The Republican convention is next week, and it means Haley's 97 delegates will be free to support Donald Trump. Haley is calling for party unity. In May, she endorsed Donald Trump.
Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me, and not assume that they're just going to be with him.
Her spokesperson says Haley will not be at the convention in Milwaukee. She wasn't invited. Haley was the last major GOP rival to Trump, who mocked her during the campaign, but backed off the attacks once he got the delegates needed to be the presumptive Republican nominee. I'm Ed Donahue.
A deputy U.S. Marshal allegedly shot an 18-year-old who tried to carjack him while he was on duty in Washington, D.C. At the time, the marshal was part of a security detail sitting in his government vehicle outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Police report the suspect approached one of the marshals and pointed a handgun at him in an apparent carjacking attempt. Both marshals on the security detail fired their service weapons, hitting the suspect, who suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The teenager was arrested and faces numerous charges, including armed carjacking and other gun-related offenses. When we return on America in the Morning, thwarting Russia's U.S. election interference after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. It was a job that came with a lifetime appointment, but an Alaskan federal judge has abruptly resigned after facing allegations of sexual misconduct. Bob Brown has details.
Trump-appointed Alaska federal judge Joshua Kindred resigned last week from the bench after being accused by investigators of engaging in sexual contact with a former law clerk. An investigative committee for the Ninth Circuit Judicial Council found Kindred allegedly engaged in misconduct by creating a hostile work environment for his law clerks and by having an inappropriate sexual relationship with one of his law clerks during her clerkship and after she became an assistant United States attorney. The committee says she did not appear on any cases before Judge Kindred while she was working as an assistant U.S. attorney. A reporter for Alaska's news source detailing the 105-page report of Judge Kindred.
It included more than 1,000 pages of exhibits, including more than 700 pages of text message exchanges between Kindred and employees, including graphic explanations of sexual acts.
Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski issuing a statement calling his resignation, quote, more than appropriate. She says judges need to be held to the highest of standards. Judge Kindred had reportedly faced impeachment if he didn't resign. I'm Bob Brown.
We have an update on the retrial for Harvey Weinstein and his #MeToo era rape case. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
The Manhattan DA's office told a judge Tuesday they intend to bring new sexual assault charges against disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein and anticipate a November retrial as they're still working with victims who were not ready to step forward during the original trial. Weinstein was in court in a wheelchair. His lawyer says the 72-year-old's health is deteriorating in jail. His lawyer told the judge, once again, we have the individual and we're looking for a crime. We've got the 1-800-GET-HARVEY hotline. Weinstein maintains the sex was consensual. His original conviction was thrown out after determining the trial judge unfairly allowed testimony based on allegations from other women that were not part of the case. Julie Walker, New York.
Cash or plastic, please? Correspondent Mike Hempen reports paper checks as a way to pay for things will become a thing of the past at Target stores.
Are the days of paying by check about over? Target says as of July 15th, it will no longer accept personal checks from shoppers. The discounter tells the AP it's making the move because of the extremely low number of customers who still write checks. Target's decision leaves Walmart, Macy's, and Kohl's among the retailers that still accept personal checks. Whole Foods Market and the Aldi supermarket chain previously stopped taking checks. Shoppers have pulled out checkbooks increasingly less often since the mid-1990s. Cash dispensing ATMs, debit cards, online banking, and mobile payment systems mean many young adults may have never written a check. I'm Mike Hempen.
Shock and anger in Ukraine after a missile allegedly fired from Russia slammed into a children's hospital in Kyiv. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports the UN is now involved.
Russian attacks on a major Kiev children's hospital were detailed to the United Nations Security Council after Russia's heaviest bombardment of Kiev in almost 4 months.
At least 47 people were killed and more than 190 were wounded following yesterday's strike.
That's Ukrainian ambassador to the United Nations, Sergei Kislitsia.
Footage captured the moment the Kh-101 missile dived towards the hospital building. Later, the Security Service of Ukraine made public the pictures of the remnants of this missile found on the spot.
Authorities were working to restore the hospital's power and water supply as Kiev city administrators declared Tuesday an official day of mourning. Russia has denied responsibility for the hospital strike, insisting it doesn't attack civilian targets in Ukraine, despite abundant evidence to the contrary. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The Russians have been caught running a fake social media campaign to attempt to influence the American elections. With that, here's correspondent Chuck Palm.
The Justice Department announced on Tuesday they have disrupted a fake social media campaign enhanced by AI to covertly spread pro-Kremlin messages in the United States and abroad. Officials from the DOJ secured court approval to seize 2 domain names and search nearly 1,000 media accounts, according to those associated with the effort. Attorney General Merrick Garland said, with these actions, the Justice Department has disrupted a Russian government-backed AI-enabled propaganda campaign using a bot farm to spread disinformation. A bot farm is a group of servers generally used to engage in cyber attacks. The DOJ's action marks the first time that the U.S. has publicly accused a foreign government of using generative AI in a foreign influence operation. The allegation implicates a senior employee of the Moscow-based Russia Today and Russian intelligence officers. The AI attack was launched from servers based in the Netherlands. Comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has a midweek check of sports.
Baseball last night, the Reds overpowered the Rockies 12-6, hitting 4 home runs, including one by rookie Rhys Hines, who eclipsed his 449-foot shot in his debut on Monday with a 458-foot blast last night. Pirates buried the Brewers 12-2. Joey Bart's grand slam was one of 5 Pittsburgh pounders. Phillies flattened the Dodgers 10-1, a granny for Trey Turner.
When I do well, I think you're just trying to keep it simple. I was just trying to get the ball to the outfield and get that first run in. And, I got kind of lucky with the wind and the heat, and the ball went over the fence, but I'll take that any day.
Zach Wheeler got his 10th win, but had to leave after 5 innings with a stiff back. Braves beat the Diamondbacks. Chris Sale becomes the first 12-game winner in the Bigs this year. Guardians blew a 6-0 lead, but came back to edge the Tigers in 10. Red Sox scored 8 times in the second inning, then held on for a win over the A's. Mariners pounded the Padres. Julio Rodriguez 4 for 4 with a homer. Cal Raleigh connected twice and drove in 4. Astros hooked the Marlins. Rangers clipped the Angels. Rays dropped the Yankees. Cubs lit up the Orioles. Giants shaded the Blue Jays, and the Mets fought off the Nationals. Twins and White Sox, Royals and Cardinals both rained out. That means doubleheaders today. Wimbledon quarterfinals, American 12 seed Tommy Paul lost to defending champ Carlos Alcaraz. 5 seed Daniil Medvedev upset number 1 Yannick Sinner. Today, U.S. 13 seed Taylor Fritz faces number 25 Lorenzo Musetti of Italy. Women's quarters, the last American, number 19 Emma Navarro, fell to 7 seed Jasmine Paolini. Euro 2024 semifinals, Spain came from behind to edge France. Today, England faces the Netherlands for a spot in Sunday's final in Berlin. Copa America semifinals, Argentina blank Canada. Lionel Messi with the clincher, his 109th international goal. He trails only Cristiano Ronaldo with 130 all-time. Tonight, Uruguay meets Colombia for the other spot in Sunday's final in Miami. That's Wednesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, this isn't your father's Beverly Hills Cop after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. A member of the singing group, the Oak Ridge Boys, has passed away. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports on the death of tenor Joe Bonsall.
Joe Bonsall was a 50-year member of the Oak Ridge Boys who have won just about every honor in country music there is. Their hits include Bobby Sue, American Made, I'm Setting Fancy Free, and then there was that Game Changer song. Bonzel said in a 2011 AP interview, Elvira transformed their lives.
It just became a monster hit song. It took us from being a major country music act at the time to a household name.
Bonzel also wrote 11 books. His last one is a memoir called I See Myself that comes out in November.
I don't think there's a guy up here that ever really thought as a kid that I'm going to go out there and be, a big solo act. It was always a group mentality, a group philosophy, and I think that's why we've been together so long.
I'm Archie Zaraletta.
It was 40 years ago that the hit movie Beverly Hills Cop debuted in theaters, which was followed by 2 more franchise favorites. Now, 4 decades later, correspondent Kevin Carr reports the newest installment of Beverly Hills Cop is taking streaming service Netflix by storm.
If you're paying attention to movies in the summer of 2024, you might find yourself in a time warp to 1984. There was already a new Ghostbusters film in theaters. Now Eddie Murphy is returning to the screen as Axel Foley.
This isn't my first time in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I saw that. 84, 87, and then 94.
Netflix greenlit the sequel to the 1984 comedy juggernaut Beverly Hills Cop more than a year ago, and now Beverly Hills Cop Axel F has become the most watched movie on Netflix. It secured a top spot by tapping into nostalgia and delivering a gritty but funny cop flick.
Oh, hey! They stole a helicopter! I didn't realize that you couldn't really fly helicopters. Otherwise, I would have came up with a different idea. I told you it was a bad idea.
The film brings back many of the elements of the original Beverly Hills Cop, including some of the stars like Judge Reinhold and John Astin as Eddie Murphy's foils, Rosewood and Taggart. For the new villain, they tapped another star who had a massive hit from 1984, Kevin Bacon. The other way this film taps into nostalgia is with its soundtrack, including licks from Glenn Frey and the Pointer Sisters. The Harold Faltermeyer synthesizer theme, Axel F, almost didn't make it into the movie, but it became a hit again with a callback to another piece of music history, tapping into the remix hit from Crazy Frog. Ding, ding. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F is currently topping the film charts at Netflix. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.